So first, of course, it is very important to emphasize that early years is a part of humans' growth, and it is a very important and valuable time in a person's life. When you work in the field of early childhood education, you, of course, have to think about the dimensions of why, what, when, and how. So, what would be the scope of work of somebody who is involved in early childhood education? So, of course, in the first place, we have to understand what we need to know. And what we need to know is, of course, a subject matter and background theories. The second dimension is why do we need to know these things? So that we will acquire new knowledge, new skills, new competencies, maybe shape up our dispositions and attitudes. The next dimension is when. So when do we need to know all these things? Right when you engage in work with children, right? It could be in a child-teacher perspective, from a child-teacher perspective, or mother-child or father-child, or anybody who is with a child. So within this frame. And of course, you also need to have this knowledge and skills and competencies in order to function as a valuable member of early childhood and education organization. So we need all this knowledge, not only in our practices with children, but also in our discussion with the professionals we work with. And how do we need to know all this? Of course, we have to understand that we need and we will develop the skills of interaction, observing, of having a dialogue and discussion with our colleagues, with our families, with our clients. We have to understand of the profession in terms of continuous learning. So the teacher actually is never ready product. The teacher is always somebody who develops own skills, own competencies, own knowledge. So we would like to emphasize here that it's very important for a teacher to self-educate herself. As I mentioned, the skill of and the ability of reflecting and self-reflecting is very important. So this is another aspect to look at. When we talk about early childhood education, we should talk about the intersection of actually many sciences and fields of study. Because the nature made us so that we are multifunctional objects or persons. We are affected by many different influences, by many different factors. So in that sense, there have, through the history of science, we've created a few science fields that study early childhood education and study the child development. And major sciences are, of course, psychology, physiology, and educational sciences. But we have to also talk about other sciences and applied sciences, like philosophy, sociology, biology, neuroscience, ethics, law, art, and others. So all these sciences will have their contribution to our understanding and our perspectives on early childhood education. When we go further with the conceptualizing early childhood education field, of course, we should talk about the key tasks and actually the main goal of education. So the utmost goal is, of course, to promote the child's right to a safe and good childhood. How to achieve this goal? We have to understand that we should promote the holistic growth of a child, which means like all-round balanced growth of a child. We also would like to guide the child towards ways of living that promote his or her health and well-being. So I encourage you to think that the holistic growth, development, and learning concept is a very important concept to start with. Maybe general principles by now, just a few, but I think that very important to mention because they really shape the framework for everyday practices in early childhood education. So early childhood education should and is a goal-oriented activity. It's not just a set of random activities or operations. We should look at early childhood education as a really goal-oriented activity, a process with the red line through the whole process. Early childhood education is and should be a pedagogy-based activity process. Early childhood education should appreciate and build on understanding of the uniqueness and value of each individual child. We should accept the fact that all people are different. So in the same way, all children are different. They all develop and grow in a different way, a different pace. So we should appreciate the uniqueness and value of each individual child. Early childhood education is also a process which actually implements the child's right to be heard, to be seen, and to be taken into account and understood as a self and as a member of their community. So these main principles shape up, like I've mentioned already, shape up the everyday practices. Keep them in mind for further discussion through today's session and try to make connections to the concepts we will consider further.